So here we got part 3. Give this question a go by yourself, and I'll explain what the answer should be. So what is the classification of an organism that is able to make organic compounds from inorganic nutrients? So maybe you've seen this exact definition before and you just know immediately, but if you don't, the answer is any organism like a plant. So we know plants can grow themselves, and we know that anything living, such as a plant, is organic. So technically, they are able to make organic compounds because they are organic from inorganic nutrients, because they use things such as water, sunlight, soil, and minerals, and all those things to be able to grow themselves, and they are organic, and they use these inorganic things. Now, but humans, for example, we are not able to use inorganic things. Like, we are not able to use things like water and sunlight and soil and all that stuff to grow ourselves. We actually need to eat something. That's why we have a mouth. So we actually go and eat things like plants and animals, which are organic, in order to make ourselves organic, in order to grow ourselves. So we're not involved at all with inorganic things. So what would be another name for a plant? The answer here would be autotroph, because autotroph means self-feeding. They feed themselves. They don't need to eat any other thing like humans. They don't have a mouth, right? So they're not going to move around and eat insects or animals and stuff. They feed themselves using inorganic matter or inorganic nutrients. Now, consumer, are they a consumer? No, because consumers eat other things. So, for example, humans, lions, insects, all of those things are consumers. They consume other things. Consume means to eat something, so you consume something. That's definitely not what they do. Detrovore? Nah, I wouldn't say detrovore, because a detrovore eats dead things. And we know, first of all, a plant can't eat anything. They literally don't eat anything. That's the point. So I have this diagram here. Here's a basic cycle, so if you don't understand it, this should make it make more sense. Wait one sec. If we look at this, we got the sun in the middle, right? So the sun represents all inorganic factors. Plants will use the soil, sun, water to grow themselves, and guess what? They are organic. They are living. Now, heterotrophs, or animals and things like that, will eat this organic things and make themselves organic, grow themselves. They are also living. Detrovores, so these two, this is a detrovore, and this is a saprotroph. They will also eat dead things. So when this hyena will die, the worms and mushrooms will decompose and eat this organic thing, and they are also organic. And they will turn this organic thing, this dead animal, into inorganic factors again, so that the cycle can continue. So essentially, detrovores kind of recycle stuff. Without detrovores, plants wouldn't be able to continue growing, because there'd be no more inorganic factors. So these things here make sure that inorganic factors, such as soil and stuff, are recycled. Otherwise, we won't be able to continue the cycle. Okay, so it's definitely not detrovore, because they eat stuff. And also not a saprotroph. A saprotroph is like this mushroom here. Also can't be them, because they also eat stuff. They don't make their own food. So definitely it's 17A. It's always very important to eliminate what's wrong, so that you're sure what you put as right is definitely right, because you don't want to mess up by accidentally missing out on a trick or something. Okay, we got 2 more here. They should be quite quick. Which statement describes the term species? Okay, so give it a go by yourself here. So species, is it A, members of the same ecological community? No. This is not true, because a community is, if you define it, it's a bunch of species living together. So a community wouldn't be how you define a species, because in a community there's a lot of different species, so it wouldn't be a specific species. So it can't be A. B, organisms that reproduce together to produce fertile offspring. Yes, that's true. And what's key in this sentence is the word fertile. For example, it doesn't mean that when 2 organisms reproduce and they produce a kid, that they're the same species. This species, to be a species, these two organisms need to reproduce and make a kid that can make their own kids. For example, if a lion breeds with a tiger, they are different species, right? So we know that they can make a kid. When they make a kid, this organism is called a liger. But the problem is, this liger, this mix between a lion and a tiger, cannot make its own kids, and therefore we would say its parents were not the same species. So for example, when two lions breed together, their kid can make a kid, and so we know those two creatures, those two lions, were of the same species. So it's very important that the word fertile is in your definition. Can it be C? Organisms of the same type in a population. This sentence is really weird. It's like so broad, so it's not technically correct. So they're saying it's like organisms of the same type in a population. In a population, a single population only has one species. But the same type, that's kind of broad. That's not being specific. So C wouldn't be an answer. You can't just say same type, because same type can mean anything. Same type of what? Same type of hair, height, you know what I mean? Like, type is very, very broad, and that's not accurate as a definition. How about D? The first word in the binomial name of an organism. So this answer here would be not in this topic 4. It would actually be from topic 5, but I'll just explain it real quick anyways. So the reason why this one is incorrect is because the species is not the first word in the binomial name. So binomial means two parts. So for example, if you think of humans, our scientific name, our binomial name, our two-part name is Homo sapiens, right? They're saying the first word in this name is a species. So they're saying Homo is the species. No, Homo here is the genus. Sapiens is the species. So, but if you don't really understand this, don't worry, because it's really part of another topic. So don't worry too much about this. Just know that the first word is not the species, it's the genus. The second one, the last one, would be the species. Okay, here we go, one more. Wait, I'm trying to zoom out here. Okay. The Australian pitcher plant, Cephalotus follicularis, is a green plant that traps and feeds on flies and other live insects. What is this plant's mode of nutrition? Okay, let's give it a go. So this plant is obviously going to be two things, because all the options have two parts to it. So is this thing a producer and a saprotroph? Well, no, because technically it is a producer. It does make its own food, like any plant does. Any plant is a producer. They produce their own food from the sunlight and all those things, right? So technically this is correct, but it's definitely not a saprotroph, because the only things that can be a saprotroph is a mushroom or a bacteria, and a plant is not a mushroom or a bacteria, so definitely A can't be correct. Because a saprotroph is something that recycles dead things, and that's not what a plant does. Okay, is it an autotroph and a detrovore? So again, autotroph is correct because it makes its own food. Autotroph and producer is kind of like synonyms, they kind of mean the same thing. It is not a detrovore because detrovores are things like worms that recycle dead things, and plants don't do that. They don't recycle. So again, it can't be B. How about C? Yes, C seems like it could be correct because autotroph, it makes its own food, but at the same time, this plant eats flies and other live insects, and the key word here is live. They don't eat dead things, which means that they're not saprotrophs or detrovores. They're heterotrophs. Heterotrophs are things that eat other live things. So therefore, they can be both. They both make their own food and they can eat other things. So they're autotroph and heterotroph. They won't be a consumer and a saprotroph because, first of all, they're neither. Technically they're a consumer because they eat plants and live insects. They eat flies and live insects. But they won't be a saprotroph because of the same reason as before. They don't recycle dead things. They eat live things. And saprotrophs can only be mushrooms and bacteria. So I hope this was helpful. And always use the same style when you answer questions. Choose the right one, read the sentence carefully, make sure it makes sense before you even start the question. and eliminate the wrong ones.